the Chase Thomas Podcast, for people who have nothing but time to kill.
All right, we're back here on the Chase Thomas Podcast, where I am now joined by old friend, NBA draft phenom, No Ceilings, Maxwell Baumbach is here. Maxwell, every time I read No Ceilings or I'll listen to the pod and everything, because I am now a man in his mid-30s as you are, I see No Ceilings and my brain does the Lil Wayne voice, no ceiling. Like
Gotta
every
do it.
time. It's
Yep.
ridiculous. Like I do it every time.
I also wonder, that's part of us being this age now is also
Yes.
I'm like, do people know that that's kind of what that's from? In my head, I'm like, do people, do the kids
No way.
know?
I
Do
don't
the
think a
kids
lot
know?
of people know.
I don't
No
think
chance.
they do. I don't think they do. That's part of just being a washed millennial.
Wash millennial. Like it's just every time I see it, it always cracks me up. I'm like,
Mhm.
hey, who are you potting with? No ceilings. And you just can't. Like I just can't. It's just stuck in your head. It's just you. It's a part of our millennial trajectory here, Maxwell Baumbach. But you do awesome NBA draft coverage over there at No Ceilings, and you've been doing it for years now. And I trust you with a lot of draft stuff. So I mean, we're not going to get into the Hawks tonight in terms of who they're ultimately going to target with two top 22 picks. I think they have 15, 22, something like that. So we'll see if they ultimately keep those, because it's a young team, and we'll figure out what they're going to do in that regard. I think they keep one.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what the Hawks are going to do, but Maxwell, I do know that Chaz Lanier, Tennessee sharpshooter from this year, is going to be drafted somewhere. I feel comfortable saying he's going to be drafted. I mean, am I getting ahead of myself assuming Chaz Lanier is a for sure drafted player?
I would say it's highly likely that he gets drafted. Would be my gut instinct. I feel like we're sort of in this era where the draft is changing a lot, because a couple years back, I feel like we reached peak second round shenanigans where it was just like, all right, who will take the worst contract? You had a lot of guys that were purposely going undrafted to land in different spots. I think we're kind of past that now, especially with the 2-day draft, where teams have basically a full day to get their CBA business together and be like, all right, how many roster spots do we have? How much money do we have? And then who do we want? If there's a guy sitting on the board and it's like, man, we can trade in and at pick 40 and get our guy, you're going to see it. And I feel like last year, the number of guys that you could argue that went strategically undrafted felt like it was at an all-time low. I would guess maybe Kashad Johnson was, maybe Jalen Bridges, and even that might be a stretch. I like Jalen Bridges. I don't know how much NBA teams did, but it feels like we're now at a point where generally it's the best players getting drafted in the second round. Generally, most underclassmen are going back to school. So what you're seeing in the second round is, because of the collective bargaining agreement that environment that we're in, we're seeing teams that want to hit early on a guy, rather than let's take a guy and pay him for 3 or 4 years and see if he turns into anything. So a guy like Chaz Lanier, who's coming in, measured really well at the NBA Combine, athletically tested very well at the NBA Combine, and has one thing that he can do really well, if nothing else, in his 3-point shooting. I would say at this point, he's probably a safe bet to get drafted in the second round.
Yeah, it's so interesting because Connect, 2 back-to-back flamethrower 3-point marksman, but completely different players in so many different ways. But the one thing is the same, is that, or two things, both, I think I would be comfortable saying elite shooters.
Yep.
But they're both older. They're both guys who are on the older side that were great for Tennessee in a one and done type situation. But Connect is someone who is so good. I mean, this year was just so weird for him, and we'll get to Connect here in a second in LA. But I think with Chaz, I saw he might go, he's in that range where the Kings and Warriors and the Jazz draft. The Warriors make so much sense for him to me, where I look at second round of a flyer guy who the Warriors are trying to contend now. You look at their options at the guard spot, Moses Moody, in and out, who knows with Jonathan Kuminga. I'm not saying he's going to replace Klay Thompson as the next Smash Bro, because I've watched a lot of Chaz Lanier defense. I don't think that's going to be his calling card in the NBA.
Yeah.
He also doesn't drive. Chaz is not someone who likes contact and driving to the rim. He got a little bit more comfortable with that down the stretch this year, but he's just not going towards contact like that. I don't think that's going to be something he does in the NBA all that much. But like you said, he has an elite skill that is just at a premium right now, which is he doesn't require any kind of, he just is so good at coming off pin downs. He's so comfortable getting a shot up so quickly, and it's a great looking shot that I mean, he should be able to find a niche somewhere. And like, he just like seemed like to me a bet of like Chaz is going to play for like 9 teams over like 13 years in the NBA. Like, that's where I think Chaz ultimately falls.
I think that's like the hope for him, right? Like
Yeah.
the hope is that he can be a guy that just continues to get second chances. And I think a lot of times, even when guys don't have that ideal size, they like teams like keep kicking the tires. Like I think about Matt Thomas from Iowa State a few years back, who like got like 5 or 6 chances and he never hit threes in the NBA. And he's this like killer in the Euro League now.
Yeah.
But yeah, like for Chaz Lanier, I think like that's kind of the hope, is that he's a guy that I think at this point, undersized shooting specialists don't command a lot of money. They're sort of like easily replaceable. Like you look at a guy like Malik Beasley, who was like acquired on the minimum a few years ago, a guy like Gary Trent, who was on the minimum. Like you can get guys who are really good at that skill set for not a lot of money. So they tend to be pretty transactional. They tend to bounce around a lot. But I think the hope for Lanier is that you can work yourself into that sort of tier where you just continue to get those chances.
So when you talk about his size, where would you like him to be a little bit bigger? What about how he measured and everything else is going to end up hurting him a little bit on team draft boards?
Yeah. So he's under 6'5", which like at this point, if you're under 6'5", and his wingspan was good. I think he had like over a 6'9" wingspan. And he measured in pretty heavy too, which is good. Like you want a guy to be bulky in the modern NBA. The guys that, if you look at the shooters that haven't panned out in recent years, a lot of them skew really skinny. Like if you look at a guy like Jet Howard, who sort of had a hard time finding traction at the NBA level, he's a guy who's really thin. Conversely, a guy like Sam Hauser, who really overachieved, is a guy who's bulky, who can, screen for other guys and get open as a result of his screening. And even like Jamison Battle on the Raptors this year, being a guy who like got himself a guaranteed contract by just being a big bulky body who can get up a ton of threes. So Lanier's strength and his athleticism are going to go a long way. I think where it's tricky is he's just like kind of closer to what teams look for in guard size. And even like his ability to run 2-man game is like pretty far behind what Dalton Connects was coming out of Tennessee a year ago. He's really good at not turning the ball over, which is important. Like if you look at guys who stick in that sharpshooter role, they're almost always guys who rarely turn the ball over. So it's good that he doesn't make mistakes. It's just you can't really count on him.
He doesn't dribble a lot, so it's really hard to turn the ball.
Yes,
he doesn't really do that.
He's dribbling once and pulling up on like a mid-range shot instead of getting all the way to the rim, which is something you'd like to see more from him, given how athletic and explosive he is. It's like just go to the basket, like draw fouls, get in the paint. I think that's where
it just doesn't feel like that's in him.
No. And I think that's like another one of the hangups for his game, is that like you have this athleticism and like on a pure analytical level, it's like, okay, he checks like dunks and threes boxes, but it's like, but all the dunks are just like transition. Like it's not half court stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that's where the size bites him, is like, he's going to ostensibly be an undersized wing because the guard skills just are not there.
Yeah. Where would you like to see him ultimately? Like, let's say he lands in the second round or late first. Is there an ideal fit for a player like him?
I kind of wonder if a team like Miami, who's like accustomed to using a lot of off-ball actions, where like their shooters aren't guys that just sort of stand around. I think that would be a great fit for him. Orlando has a pick in the late second round, I believe. I think, they are, or if I'm not mistaken, let me pull up full order. I thought Orlando had a pick there. Orlando picks 57th. So that's a pick that I could see him. That's a team that's just like in desperate need of guys who can shoot. I wonder if a team like Utah would do it, because they're just so thin on guys who can shoot in their backcourt. It's a lot of Keontae George. It's a lot of Isaiah Collier. Like they might draft Jeremiah Fears at 5. Is it just like, let's just get one guy who we know can shoot? Like we've got plenty of guys that can handle the ball. We've got plenty of guys that are like 6'11" and can guard a variety of positions. Like let's just throw Chaz Lanier out there and get him shots. Like that's a situation I kind of wonder about. So I feel like those are the teams that, when we're looking at the back part of the second round, to me make the most sense in my head.
And it's interesting, like when we're talking about the top of our conversation here of like the strategy and how it's changed and like the undrafted guys and how teams are looking at the second round. And I think 2 of Tennessee's important seniors this year, I'm curious. I mean, Zakai right now is suing to get a 5th year. So we'll see if Zakai's even back or it tries it at the NBA level. But the from this side of things, Max, like it's felt like Zakai was going to go. He seems like he's someone who's going to be able to have a long Euro career or overseas career. I mean, he's so good, and he was such a great college player that like I hope he finds a spot in the NBA. But it just feels like he might be an overseas guy. But Jahmai is like such an like unbelievable on-ball defender, and with his versatility and switchability 1 through 5, that like he is kind of like the under talked about wild card to me, where it's like I'm not seeing him on draft boards, but like if you were to tell me Jahmai sticks and he is such a great dude and great worker that teams are gonna like in a weird, it's not like a Chaz Lanier type deal because like everyone looks at shooting, but like Jahmai does things that NBA teams love. Like he has a elite skill set as a role player potentially at the next level. Like, what do you think about Jahmai, and if that's something you could see happening for him?
So I totally undersold Jahmai. Like I do this big like NCAA tournament preview thing every year where I write about like here's all the guys in the field and all the processing regime, and like I didn't even write about Jahmai Mashack because I was like he doesn't do enough on offense.
Right.
He gets the Portsmouth Invitational invite, which is like a combine event for guys who are out of college eligibility, basically. Totally won me over. Like it was one of those things where it's like I need to go back and watch the Jahmai Mashack tape closely because I was looking at Igor Milicic a lot. I was looking at Chaz Lanier a lot, and I just wasn't really paying attention to Jahmai Mashack. But in Portsmouth, it's like, oh, he's totally suffocating. Like guys are turning the ball over. They're being forced into dribble pickups. They can't initiate offense. Like he was so unbelievably smothering. That it's like, I know this isn't the highest level of competition, but it's like, this is something. He earned himself a G League Elite Camp invite. He was good there. I will say on like a human level, Intel is good. People like him a lot, which matters a lot. Like when we're talking about guys in the margins, like if teams are going to take a chance on a guy that's like a two-way guy or an undrafted or whatever, like they would prefer for there to be no nonsense there. And like Jahmai Mashack 1000% checks those boxes from what I understand. I do still worry about the offense, like historically low usage player by NBA standards, like can make threes, but didn't really take a lot of them. He knows how to move without the ball, which is good. But like generally the guys who stick in the NBA, and like I feel like Aaron Wiggins on the Thunder is a great example of this, like had the ball all the time for his college team and is now like an NBA role player. Like those are generally the guys that turn into role players. And like a lot of times, like to hearken to Bronny James, I guess, like a lot of people are like, oh, like why can't Bronny James see Pat Bev? And then like you look at Pat Bev's college stats, he was averaging like 17 points per game, like a ton of assists. Like Tony Allen's another one. Like generally, like, the guys that stick were superstars offensively, even if that's not their role in the NBA. So Jahmai Mashack's gonna have an uphill battle on that front, but I do think the defense is so special that I do think there's a legitimate chance that like he does end up on a roster, like a real roster, like a 15-man roster at some point in his career. I just don't know that offensively, like he has enough juice to ever be like an every game guy. But like, is there a chance he's like this generation's Javonte Green? Like, I think that's possible.
And it's funny you bring that up because I was like, in my head, I was just thinking about Chris Dunn's role with the Clippers, where it's just like he's not looking at the rim at all. Like Chris Dunn is just there's no offense to speak of. But I mean, he's starting on a pseudo contender this year for the Clips, and he carved out a niche. But then you go like to your point, like look at his Providence stuff. Like Chris Dunn was capital P problem at Providence. He was a great college player,
team All-American,
but it's very different. And it's not. But that was never. The weird thing about Jahmai is if you remember 2 years ago, Zakai goes down to a torn ACL and Tennessee did not have a backup point guard. So they had to go Jahmai. Like Jahmai brought them to the Sweet 16 as a lead ball handler. So Jahmai, he's comfortable. Like the shooting, I don't think is ever, and like you talk about the shooting this year, it's like he had the half court buzzer beater against Alabama, which was awesome, but he was getting open looks. Like teams were just sagging off of him. Like I mean, I don't even know who I would say here. Maybe Brook Lopez before he started to do it. Like he gets a lot of who's a big who like kind of had to prove after a while.
Like Miles Turner is one of those.
Miles Turner, where they they finally were like, all right, we'll respect you because you're making these at a somewhat decent clip. Jahmai was getting open threes all the time, and he made the most of those opportunities. But there was a reason they were okay with Jahmai shots from deep. But he is a good ball handler. Like that's the one thing I will say about Jahmai in terms of the offensive limitations is that he was able to lead Tennessee as a primary ball handler to the Sweet 16 that year. and is comfortable bringing the ball up and is comfortable initiating action and driving. Like he is comfortable driving at the rim. Pretty good free throw shooter too at the college level. But I don't know if that helps his case. And that's something that teams like maybe will help him in that regard. But that is something I've thought about.
I do think it can at least help him in like ancillary settings where it's like maybe we can at least have him like we can run some like quirky inverted ball screen stuff and like use him as a roller. You know what I mean? Like if a team needs to get creative in order to find a place for him on offense because they don't want to simply park him in the corner, like if it's a team that runs some more stuff, I think the ability to like put the ball on the deck and like be able to operate in tight spaces and not turn the ball over, it does matter like quite a bit. Like it just gives him like at least something where it's like, all right, maybe this can be turned into some sort of utilization that an NBA coach can come up with.
The final one here is Zakai Zeigler. I want it for him so bad. I don't know. Like he's just someone that you just like the height and the size is obviously the biggest issue there, but he's also like, I mean, I just want him to be Tyus Jones in the NBA.
He's really good at basketball. Yeah.
He's really, really good at basketball. He has great vision. He's great at driving. He's great at initiating the offense. I think he's a solid shooter, like very tough, like obviously extremely pesky defender, great on ball. He did get like one of the things that did happen. It's not his fault, but like guys would get good looks over Zakai. Like good shooters would have like Zakai would be all over them, but it's still the height mismatch where like you could get some good looks against Zakai. But I mean, the game against Georgia is a good game to look at, like the best version of Zakai with his tape this past year. But man, he's fearless. He's also just like insanely durable in how much time he's able to play. Like 30, he can play entire second halves for an entire season. He can play 38 minutes a night. Like his motor never stops.
Yeah.
But I want him to work. Like I'm not looking at this where I'm like, okay, he can be like, I'm talking myself into him being a starting point guard on a really good NBA team.
Yeah.
I want him to be Tyus Jones. Like I want him to be able to find a way to be like a backup guard who can play 12 to 14 minutes a night on a lot of teams like Delon Wright. I don't know. I want that for Zakai. I want him to be able to stick in the league, but I don't know if that's possible. What do you see from Zakai?
I think it's a really uphill battle. I will say there are some like really smart basketball people that I talk to that have like brought him up as like a guy that they think like, hey, this guy like might actually have more of a chance than people think. So like I do think that there's like a degree of hope. I wouldn't say there's a lot of it.
Yeah.
Yuki
more or less than Jahmai.
Less than Jahmai. So this year in the regular season, like I don't think anybody under 6 foot played. Like they at least listed at 6 foot, other than Yuki Kawamura is the only one that's like under 6 foot that I can pull up on the NBA like regular season.
Who are the last ones? I mean, what is Tyus Jones?
So I think they have him listed at like 6 foot or 6'1". Which
and Trae Young, by the way,
dubious.
Trae Young is a very generous. I think they have him at 6'1". I don't think Trae Young.
Yeah, I don't think so either. They have Tyus Jones at 6'1", which I don't
Those are that's 6'1". Yeah, Trae is at 6'1". I don't think Trae is 6'1", and I don't think Tyus Jones is 6'1". They're at the border.
The guy who like I kind of think about with Zakai, and like he's not quite as good of a shooter as this guy, but I also think like he just played against so much better competition. Do you remember Jacob Gilyard from Richmond a few years ago who got like a cup of coffee with like the Grizzlies and then the Nets?
Vaguely, he's
like
not in the league,
that.
though,
He was 5'9". I don't think he's in the league anymore. Like I think he's overseas now. But like that's the guy that I think of where it's like he was also like this really pesky, defensively oriented guard who was like short, thinner than you'd like, but could really run an offense and like just managed to like be on an NBA court for a while. And I think that's like the goal for Zakai. Like if I was Zakai, I'd be like, let's try and get you to the point that Jacob Gilyard got to. And if we do, great. And like if you get there, maybe we see what else we can get out of it. But I would
Thomas
say
5'9".
most likely. Yeah.
Yeah. Nathan Robinson 5'9". Chris Paul though,
also a guy listed at 6 foot. Yeah.
And I don't want to stir up the Chris Paul Zakai Zeigler comparisons, but many are saying
not me, but many
many are saying there's a little bit. Have you heard like what the guys from Solid Verbal? I don't know if you listen to
Solid
Verbal.
Love Solid Verbal.
You know their bit about like a little bit of Baker Mayfield in him, like a little bit of Chris Paul in him.
That is, I feel like every year you get that in the draft space, which like whichever role player is popping off in the playoffs. So like we're on like the second round of a little bit of Alex Caruso. I'm trying to think of who the other trendy guys are. Jalen Wells, because he was like the guy that people didn't think last year. Could he be the Jalen Wells this year?
Yeah.
You get a lot.
I
of
mean,
that.
Desmond Bain. Everyone's trying to find like the Desmond Bain too for
Desmond
the Grizzlies.
Bain. Con Knipple gets a lot of Desmond Bain comparisons.
Yeah, because everyone wants the Desmond Bain, like that late. Because where did Bain go?
Like 28.
Yeah, that's like just an amazing bargain. His size is kind of weird as a 2 guard. Like it just everyone wants a Desmond Bain type situation. Great value at that spot, and he's like one of those guys you overthought. I think like there's every year people overthought, and I think people kind of overthought Dalton last year to an extent.
I'm a big Dalton Connect guy, so I will agree with you.
I mean, let's put a bow on it here. I mean, with Dalton, like it was a weird rookie year in Los Angeles, Max, and I don't know. Like they almost traded to Charlotte and then not. I think that would have been better for him. Like Charlotte would let him cook. Like obviously there's a lot of usage taken away by playing with Brandon Miller and LaMelo Ball. But I think he would have an opportunity to put up a lot of shots. And I just think that's his thing. Like he just needs his age being what it is. Dalton needs to get buckets. Dalton needs an opportunity to play. And I don't think the defense is ever going to be great for Dalton Connect. I don't think he's ever going to be great in defensive rating per 100 possessions, but I don't know. It's just kind of weird that at the beginning, I thought it was a great fit for him in LA and someone that LeBron and company would like playing with, and just his skill set would mesh with them and kind of what LeBron wants, like older players who can help now and as they try and win titles. But I don't know. It was an up and down rookie year for Dalton, but I'm still bullish that he's going to be a long-term pro. Are you?
Totally. Yeah, I am as well. Scored like a really efficient 9 points per game. Kept his turnovers above and like assist numbers above board. The defense, like you said, was like rough. And like where I was optimistic with Dalton was I thought the defense was going to be a little bit better than it was. And like maybe that was a little bit foolish of me. Maybe I over-indexed on the fact that like, oh, he went to Tennessee to like learn how to play defense, and it just didn't get to happen. Like maybe I put too much stock into that. But I do think like with rookies generally where they struggle is their efficiency. Like if you just look at rookies in the NBA, their shooting splits are always like the worst. They're the worst that they will ever be. Connect being a 37.6% 3-point shooter on really good volume as a rookie is super encouraging to me. Like I really think there's a non-zero chance that he hits like a Buddy Hield adjacent outcome, which was like the guy I kind of compared him to pre-draft. Was like, what if Buddy Hield just like had a bigger frame? I think that's on the table. I think like scratching 38% on that volume as a rookie is not meaningless, and I would be very like leery of considering selling a stock at this point.
I love that. I like the Buddy Hield comp. I've heard Gordon Hayward. I've heard I'm doing a bit. I've heard
Sam Hauser.
AJ Tom Gugliotta.
Sean Bradley.
Oh man. To put a bow on everything, Maxwell. So final predictions here. Where do you think Chaz ultimately goes?
I will say
Chaz. Think Jahmai and or Z. Let's just say, do you think one of or both Jahmai or ZZ get drafted?
I will say Chaz Lanier gets drafted in the later half of the second round.
Okay.
I will say Jahmai Mashack gets a 2-way like immediately after the draft.
I like that.
Like that's kind of gutsy, I think, based on the overall projection of him right now. But I believe that. I think Zakai Zeigler, assuming he's not on campus at Tennessee, barring the results of a lawsuit, I think he gets on a summer league roster. Maybe that's like a little.
He would be a summer league favorite. Like he's the one in Vegas everyone's talking about in summer league. Like he would go off in summer league because he's going to take it so much more seriously than ever. Like, you're like, what's up with this guy? Why is Zakai like over here just like full court press, just ready to go? Like Zakai will eat up summer league.
Yeah, I think Igor Milicic also gets like an Exhibit 10, which is the contract where it's like you get to compete for a 2A, and then like we give you some extra money if you stay on our G League team.
Interesting. Yeah, Igor just had a really weird year for Tennessee.
I was really bullish on Igor coming into the year, and it just never
didn't work. Like it was just it just I don't know. That one was a weird one because I think a lot of people were surprised at how that year went for Igor.
And I'm just hung up because it's like I still like the idea of this guy.
Yes,
but it's like
he's a great theoretical 3, like top of the key, pick and pop big who fits the modern. Like it all like theoretically should work.
Yes,
like
on
Igor,
paper it makes a lot of sense, and like the fact that it's like, well, he doesn't make threes, but he can take them off of movement.
Yeah.
It's like, all right.
Great rebounder.
Cool.
Like,
yeah, rebounds, but then like it's also like gets knocked around a little bit more than you'd like to see, like on the interior. But then you look at the finishing numbers, it's like, well, they're still pretty good. Like you can talk yourself in and out of him really easily.
I have no idea what's next for Igor. Like no idea. Like it wouldn't surprise me if he catches on and he puts it all together, and it wouldn't surprise me if it goes the other way too. Like Igor's just he's a huge wild card to me.
I think where I sit with him ultimately is I think he's a guy that is too streaky to stick. Like I just don't think like guys that are that up and down like don't play in rotations normally. Like they're guys that like play sometimes and that's it. No. So like I feel like that's where I wish I could mine, because I loved his season at Charlotte before this, but it's just a tough sell after that year.
Yeah. What can the good folks check out from you and the team over at No Ceilings this week, Max?
Yeah, so we've got a lot going on. Our draft guide is going to be out really soon, so follow No Ceilings NBA on Twitter. We've got our draft guide. We went wild with it this year. In the past, we would do like 60 profiles. This year, the profiles are longer. I know that we've written like 110 of them or something like that. I don't know how many are going to make it in based on like attrition and guys withdrawing from the draft and things like that. But our whole team has been working tirelessly on putting their draft guide together. So stay tuned for that, NoCeilingsNBA.com. And then on Monday, I've got an article and an interview coming out on Arthur Kaluma, who's a really interesting sleeper out of Texas. But just every single day and leading up to the draft, we'll have podcasts, we'll have written content, we'll have video breakdowns, all that. So just if you're interested in the draft at all, get in touch with No Ceilings on all of our social platforms. Follow along. We're here for you.
I love it. Is Popovich over all this? Is he? Is she? Because Popovich
my female cat named Popovich. Yeah.
Yes, she's still doing good. Like she's
still good.
Grinding the tape with you.
Yeah, she's still grinding the tape. She is still unbelievably loud. Like I have the hardest time recording podcasts because like she will occasionally, like, she was over here for a minute. I was like worried. The loudest cat I've ever.
No, we're pro Popovich on this very program.
Yeah,
we're pro
we love
Pop.
her. She's the best.
I love it. Maxwell, keep up the great work, my friend, and we'll have to check back in again very soon.
All right.
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas Podcast. Hell yeah.